Hello and welcome to Clipping In, Sunday the 16th of June. Shall we go for a morning spin in the Pennines? Why not? I thought it'd be time to post some kind of an update video really, because it's a month since I did that double A side of the Emily Moor mountain bike ride and then the home Moss via Digley. And in that time I'm just run off my feet basically, exceptionally short of time. I'm keeping some cycling going, thankfully, averaging maybe 8 to 10 hours a week, which is better than nothing. I mean, I think in any other pastime, any other sport, that'd be quite respectable. Certainly when I was at university and I was running cross country, 8 hours a week was ample. But cycling's not like that. It's incredibly time consuming, especially once you start getting into distances. So I'm ticking over with that and a couple of hours of what you might call mobility work, flexibility work off the bike, and that's my lot. I've pared back reading, listening to music, watching films, playing music's completely gone. You know, guitars don't come out of the case from one week to the next. I haven't sat behind the drum kit for months. So I've done all that paring back, and I'm just keeping a core of pedaling going. There's no consistency to it, but I'm keeping it going. It also means when you're that short of time, I can't make videos. Firstly, the rides that I'm doing, I don't regard them as being worthy of long videos, because they've been on the channel lots of times before, or I'm just doing multiple circuits. But also just the sheer amount of time. As a rough example, the chest cam format that I switched to about 8 months ago, those videos take an average of 4 to 5 hours to make. I just can't find that time, because you need to do a lot of that in one block to concentrate. And as you'll appreciate, if you're just managing to scrape 8 to 10 hours of cycling together, where does that 4 or 5 hours of video making come from? It can only come out of that ration. So if you're not careful, well, you could describe it as a kind of a Ponzi scheme, like Bernie Madoff, when investors thought they were getting good returns, but in reality he was just returning a little slice of their own capital to them, and that gave the impression that they were getting a good return. But ultimately, if you're eating into capital in that way, you run out. And in cycling terms, you spend 4 hours making a video, but then next week your cycling time's down to 4.5 hours. It just runs out in that way. So not the best way, not the best investment. The former Sowerby Bridge police station, featured, I probably mentioned before, in the Happy Valley series on BBC. Leaving Rushworth behind, starting on the climb now up towards Windy Hill. Passing that famous coaching inn there, the Ernpike. Just over my shoulder there, Boothwood Reservoir, and you might catch a glimpse of the big Scamandon Bridge crossing the M62. Sweeping up Windy Hill. It's a headwind, so living up to its name. And this is the climb that marks the division between Boothwood, Rushworth, over to Denshaw. and Saddleworth. I thought today I should post something because over the last week I've had a few messages slightly concerned, asking if I'm okay. You know, have you got COVID? Have you had a bad fall? Have you run away to join the circus? Which is tempting, I must admit, but no. So I thought I'd put this out and explain what was going on, and that way, if you don't see another clipping in video for a month or so, you're in the picture. What I try to avoid on this channel is complaining because it's so easy, I think, when you're in a internal world of cycling to start judging and comparing, coming up short, and then feeling that you've got to complain about something or justify why you're coming up short. And I've seen some cycling vlogs that are, some of the entries are just non-stop moaning, and about relatively minor things you see with perspective. It's like 1 mile an hour slower than normal, or so many watts short, or not as many miles as expected, and all that kind of stuff. I get it, because when I was time trialing, often if you'd entered a 25-mile time trial, if you rode a 52 minutes, you'd be happy. If you rode a 51, you'd be ecstatic. If you rode a 55 minutes, you'd be completely devastated, inconsolable, and down for days, all over, 3 minutes in 25 miles. And with perspective, it's nothing. But when you are in that mindset of competition, of training, of performance and expectations, those kinds of margins can feel life and death. And what I've tried to do with the channel since I've been back for 2 years, and having been out all that time with the broken hip and all the after effects, I try now to be thankful for being able to cycle and being able to get out and ride 40-50 miles without any serious after effects. It's brilliant, and it's what I was sort of dreaming of all those 8 years that I was out, thinking, oh, what I would give to be able to get out and just ride 40-50 miles. I won't complain, that's what I used to say to myself, but it didn't happen. But now that it has happened and I'm back out, it's brilliant, and I remind myself of that constantly. Nowadays we're surrounded by so much data: power, heart rate, distance, average speed, max speed. We've got so much information that I think we fall into that trap of comparing ourselves too readily, both with our own numbers and our own rides and what other people are doing too. And I think a lot of people, they could be quite happy with the ride that they've done in itself, but once you then have to go public with it and it hits social media, be that Strava or YouTube, that's when you start feeling that what you've done is a failure or you're falling short. And it's not. It doesn't have to be. And also, I think this idea that we post somewhere and then we're going to be compared, that's not true. It's a projection of us, of our own insecurity. The vast majority of people that keep an eye on what you're doing, they're happy to see that you've got out. They'll give you a thumbs up, they'll give you a click, they'll give you a like, a kudos, whatever. And they're happy to see that you're out and about and doing stuff. They're not going to get into the minutiae and say, oh, on that climb he was 0.73 mile an hour slower than normal. Passing through Denshaw. About to climb up to the reservoir and then over to my old favourite, the Buckstones. Lovely morning, quite chilly. It was 10 Celsius when I set off at about just before 8. But dry. Look for the silver lining. Tootling away now on the Buckstones climb, you might be able to see the reservoir down there. Looks quite full for June. I wonder if it's been raining a lot. It's interesting, I've seen a few running and cycling vlogs talking about a term, Stravanoia. People have quit Strava and various other social media, not because of concerns about privacy or intrusive messaging or anything like that, but this Stravanoia, a paranoia or an insecurity about the rides and runs that you're posting. They feel somehow inadequate, and if a run or ride is shorter than expected, slower than expected, slower than usual, people agonise about whether they should post it or not, because it's having that much of a negative effect, this expectation of judgment. And again, it's, in a lot of cases, that judgment, that comparison, it's not taking place, it's you comparing yourself negatively to the other things that you see on social media. Everyone else seems to be going faster, further, more power, they look better. I know that's difficult to imagine, isn't it? And it all adds up to make you feel insecure about going into that cauldron of comparison. Now, there's a view you never get tired of. Buckstones Rocks, Emily Moor in the background, looking across roughly, what would that be, southeast. Amazing. I think I've ridden 24 miles to get here. Worth every yard. So I've crossed Buckstones Junction and I'm now heading in the direction of Barkey's Land, and you can just see that expanse there, the horizon, look, roughly northeasterly. So you're somewhere amongst that lot is Halifax. The Pennines are everywhere, they've got us surrounded. Temporary lights on Scamandon Bridge, which I mentioned earlier on. You can see it's a one carriageway closed. Oh, and we're through. Just as I'd unclipped. Oh well, I'll keep the camera running as we go over the bridge. These railings, higher railings, are quite new within the last few years at least. "39 miles on the clock into the home straight. We had a smashing ride, great countryside, superb scenery, takes you away from the ordinary. You get back feeling better than when you set off, tick all those boxes, job done." It's going to be just short of 40 miles and I'll see what I can put together. As I've said, it'll be a while before the next edition of Clipping In, but it will be coming at some point. And now I've just got to explain why this ride is 0.73 miles an hour slower than usual. I've got a good excuse.